And welcome to another episode of Feed My Sheep Earthquake Reports and more. It's the 22nd of September, and we had a large earthquake this morning. Not huge, large. It's called a 6.5 in Nicaragua. We're going to have a look at that. We're going to have a look at the buildup of activity to this earthquake as well, and finish with the earthquake. So before we begin, and there's been a lot of effects on the U.S. Related to this. The amount of force that's involved has affected the U.S. activity quite a bit. We'll get to this after a prayer because all our programs are dedicated to our Heavenly Father service. So we'll start there. Heavenly Father, thank you that we're again here able to bring information to feed your sheep. We ask for your protection over this program, over your children who watch. We ask, Jesus, that you shepherd us through this, guide us. I certainly need the help. And Heaven or Holy Spirit, we ask that you share truth and love with us. We certainly need your discernment also. In Jesus' name, amen. So of all places to start, we're starting in Chile. And this is it here. And when was Chile? Chile was back on the 20th. And we're going to actually go back to the 15th as part of this. So this is the Chile activity. And how large was that? Well, that's a large waveform there, but it didn't pack a big punch. We can see from this earthquake that this was another series event, that there are quite a few smaller earthquakes mixed in with this. So let's move to the next one. We often have to step back and away from larger earthquakes to find out how large they are, because we get a better look at the waveform. By the time we move to Otavalo, Ecuador, we're seeing two main waveforms. So there's a separation in there. From Davao, Philippines. The reason this is there is there's twofold reason. One, it shows you that the propagation moving east-west wasn't very great. This is the earthquake in question here. We're still on the 20th. This is showing a different earthquake up top. This was would have been the Kuril Islands earthquake here. And this would have been, I believe, that's part of the same signal. So we had two earthquakes prior to the Chile earthquake. That was the first in Tonga and the second in the Kuril Islands. They were reported, I believe, a 5.7 and a 5.9, something around that range. They were larger, of course. They were in the mid-6 range. So the downgrades continue. That's not a surprise. Looking from Kilima, Mombago, Kenya. I'm just going to read this first before we move across. The initial large deep signal is the 5-minute signal. But we must subtract from the duration of the signals due to the distance from the epicenter. Over 300 kilometers deep, and you'll see this when I zoom in some. This is a near 7.5. The total duration, the P wave to the end of the body wave, is showing here as closer to 3.5 hours, but towards 4 hours, and that's from multiple stations. And this fits with about a 7.5, but it's a little under that based on propagation. Propagation to very distant sites is only fair. More in keeping with a 7.4, 7.3 perhaps. So we're looking at about a 7.4. It might be as high as a 7.45. That's a pretty tight arrangement. We're going to look at this earthquake waveform here, and we see a very, very coarse signal leading into this. I'm not sure if you can pick this up on your phones, but there it is. This has a lot of space between the waveforms, and it transitions in this period to a tighter waveform And we see an S wave with an overlap here to another S wave. So we've now got 1, 2, now very deep again. So this is over 300 kilometers deep in Chile. We've got a second earthquake here. We've got a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh and an eighth. There's a ninth S wave here. There's a 10th and 11th. So we've got and 12th and 13th here, and then it tapers. It disappears. It seems to have knocked the seismogram offline, which gives us a nice clear signal to look at. So some things are beneficial. So very much a series event, and moving away in an east-west direction. Okay, so that's what separates the signals out if you're moving back against the flow. So this that's how we see this. Now we're going back to Idaho, and this is Idaho to Wyoming activity that we're going to have a look at, and this started on the 14th, 15th, so just around midnight, went through to midnight, and this is. Was it Haley? Yeah, this is Haley, Idaho activity. Massive VLF waves off the chart, hour after hour, overwriting, near blacking out the seismogram. And there's close to 7 hours of VLF activity on this seismogram. So that's a lot of fault shift. And later, on the 15th and 16th, we had another 4 hours, roughly 11 hours in total between 2 days. So that's a lot of VLF activity. That's a lot of fault shift. So we had moderate activity on the 18th, showing from the Camas Ranch site south-southeast of Mayfield. Now these are 1 hour per line. This is actually about a 4.5, this large signal here. So these are more in the 3 range here. And there are some, this may be a 2.8, 2.9. This is more of a 3, this is more of a 3. So some good sized signals and some 2s down here as well. Well, hard to say exactly what they are, but we looked at the Pearl Lake, Idaho site, and there's the largest one, and then there's the next 3 relatively large signals, and you can see there's some very small 2.0 range earthquakes mixed into this as well. So quite a bit of activity, 15th through the 18th. Now we're going to look at Moose Creek, Idaho. This is getting very close to the Wyoming border. And we're going to have a look at where these sites are. And you can see those earthquakes standing out as large events. So there's the 3, this is the main one with a double strike. You can see in the area there was quite a bit of magma infill vibrations or fault shift vibrations. In this case, we're not sure which it is. From French Glen, Oregon, so southeast Oregon, we see that there was also quite a bit of activity coming through. The size, the propagation of the earthquake activity, which is actually centered near Stanley, Idaho, was quite large. So that Stanley activity is growing, and that's part of why I'm showing you this. And here are these 4 earthquakes again, looking from Pearl Lake, Idaho, and Pearl Lake broke into a bunch of VLF waves later on the 18th. So this is noonish that this is going on. And then we saw that there was later on, after this VLF activity that's now moved up the page, there was another earthquake. And that's at least in the 3.0 range. And here we see that 3.0 earthquake down here is actually a little bit larger. It's a near 4.0 earthquake. Not that far off the size of the previous one. And so now I'm going to scoot you down to the bottom of the page. There's the Camas Ranch site showing that same earthquake. So this earthquake was closer to Pearl Lake than the previous one because the signal spread is different. So we're going to go right down to the bottom here and see where we're looking at. So here's the Pearl Lake, Idaho site. Okay, Stanley is down here. And Haley is down here. Now, there's a road valley that goes this way, or there's a valley with a road in it, I should say. And Stanley's right here. This is the earthquake epicenter, about 18 miles, 17 miles away, something like this. This is the Camas Ranch down here. And you can see there's another roadway. I don't know if you can pick this up on your phone, but there's another roadway coming down here, and the Camas Ranch is right close. Now, the other things that are worthy of note, this is the Seven Devils complex here. This old volcanic supervolcano, that's what this was, an older supervolcano, that's 110 miles across. And that connects to magma or lava flows that run all the way through this Smiling Bend in Idaho, south of the Salmon Mountains, all the way up to Yellowstone. This is Yellowstone over here. So this is significant that on one side of the Salmon River Mountains, you've got Seven Devils, and there's an awful lot of volcanic reactivation going on. And on the other side of the Salmon Mountains, you've got Yellowstone. And they're both super volcanoes in their own right. But Salmon River, the Seven Devils complex has been thought for decades to be extinct, according to the agencies. But we're finding reactivation of 15-million-year-old volcanoes. They're not extinct until they're proven to be extinct. The second very deep magma chamber that remains in the crust is a weak spot for pressure to come up, and that's what we're seeing in eastern Washington. So now we've got activity actually all the way around this site, and we're going to show you this. So we're looking at the whole base of Idaho is actually quite a bit busier than anybody's telling anyone. And that's why we're visiting this area. So let's go back up to where we were. Excuse me while I scroll. So this was the activity at the Camas Ranch site, the second earthquake after the VLF activity at Pearl Lake, Idaho. And after that, Fox Creek, Wyoming also got busy. But what we had, and it doesn't show well on this one, I'll show you on the next one. There was two earthquakes, one in Tonga and one in the Kuril Islands. And they were both in, because we're back on the 20th on this day. And on the 20th, we had two earthquakes in the Kuril Islands. One in the Kuril Islands and one, let's see, Tonga was the first. So this is the Tonga earthquake. And this, get the size up. This is the Tonga earthquake here. This is the Kuril Islands earthquake here. And we're looking on this one from Red Lodge, Montana. So now consider, we had one site in Wyoming going off in between the two earthquakes. I know this heliplot is just a mess, but we can still tell that the activity came in between the earthquakes. There's the Tonga earthquake here. This is the Kuril Islands earthquake here. The activity's in between the two. So Fox Creek, Wyoming had VLF waves in between the two earthquakes. Now let's look at the other activity because there was more. Red Lodge, Montana, it went off with VLF waves reacting to the pressure that the Earth was experiencing. This is not reacting to, this is ahead of both of these earthquakes. So it's not going to be reacting to the earthquake force. This is reacting to the force being applied to the whole Earth. And we have a fault shift movement proven by VLF waves. This is Red Lodge, Montana, which is on a fault associated with the Missouri River and associated with Yellowstone on the north end, northeast end area. Here we have the Blue Mountains Array in Oregon, almost at the same time, just a little bit of a time difference. We can look at the two for comparison. Blue Mountains was, you can see, You can see the Blue Mountains reacted first, and Red Lodge reacted afterwards, but very much within the same time period. We're only a few minutes apart. And so there's the Blue Mountains array, and that's in southeastern Oregon, mid-eastern Oregon. And it's reacting. That's right close to the Seven Devils complex. Now, included in the activity that was between these two earthquakes and beforehand. Now, this is activity that's beforehand. It doesn't look that big, but it's significant. It's just more distant. So Utah at the Hardware Ranch was also shifting ahead of the Tonga earthquake and the Kuril Islands earthquake, and shifted in between them with more significant VLF waves. That's a lot of shifting in various states already. Now we can include Westport, Connecticut, shifting between the two earthquakes. And we can see that it was shifting up here as well after the earthquakes. It was leading into this by many hours, and it was shifting throughout the page. And this is normal for Westport. It's a very active site. It's usually off in the distance, though. It's not close. And we see Red Lodge, Montana. Now we're a little later. We're on the 21st. And this is ahead of the Chile earthquake. This is the Chile earthquake here. So a lot of reactivity in the U.S. to what's going on. The pressure applied to the Earth is showing up as earthquakes in South America, in Tonga, in the Kuril Islands. In the U.S., it's showing up primarily as VLF waves. So we're getting intraplate faults shifting in the U.S. Here's Ogallala, Nebraska, shifting ahead of the Chile earthquake, and look at the duration of the VLF waves. If this was happening right close to the seismic site, this would be off the chart. It's just further away, so that lowers the amplitude. So how many states have we got shaking with reactivity to the force being applied to the Earth that's setting off earthquakes off elsewhere? We've got Nebraska, got Montana, got Connecticut, got Utah, Oregon. That's another Montana site. We've got Wyoming. And we've got sites in Idaho as well. Pearl Lake, Idaho. And Haley, Idaho. All reacting to what? A major amount of force being applied to the Earth. And it's causing plates to shift. In some areas it creates earthquakes. In other places it causes plates to shift. Now, Yellowstone itself, this is reactivity, stress being applied to faults that are associated with Yellowstone leading into the Chile earthquake. That's a fair bit of fault shift movement around Yellowstone. That doesn't mean it's going to blow. It means that there are faults associated with Yellowstone that few people talk about, and we're going to look at where these faults would be at and how things are connected. Wisconsin. It's still having a pressure reaction. We're seeing VLF waves ahead of, and they're in the distance, so they're smaller. But VLF waves associated before the Chile earthquake and afterwards. Okay? Fox Creek, Wyoming, having another shift after the Chile earthquake. And then we get into the large earthquake this morning that was Grand Turks, Turks and Caicos. Now the we're looking at a 7.4 for the Chile earthquake. This one's larger. We can do a straight up size comparison between the two, but really we don't need to. This is from Grand Turks, Turks and Caicos. This is how it looked from Jamaica. And anytime it starts right on this end or starts flush on this side, you don't know how much data is missing because you lose a little data right at the end of the heliplot. And I don't know why they've got it set up that way, but they do. So we change to a different location to see what's going on. Now what we haven't talked about is Riachuelo, Brazil. And here you can see a stair-step pattern of VLF waves, always, and these are always initiated with the same size wave pretty much. In my opinion, considered, and having watched this site for months, I believe Brazil to be under attack by a manufactured earthquake process, that they're trying to unsettle the plates because Brazil is standing strong against some one world government initiatives that include damage to their citizens through inoculations, shall we say. And here we look in Greenland. Looking at the earthquake that we had this morning from Greenland, we can actually see some great depth involved. We're seeing a very wide spread in the waves here. We're also seeing a very wide spread in this area. This is the P wave coming in. But this is a little, if we can get closer, that's better. We're also seeing that there's a number of different sets of S waves. There's one here, one here, one here. There's another one here, there's another one here. And there's mixed S wave sets, but they're not well differentiated from this location. Cathedral Cave, Missouri. This actually gives us a much better presentation. I'll just review what I wrote and let's have a look. We have an initial very, very coarse S wave. This is very deep. It's short and it looks like it's small, but this is 5 minutes in duration. And this coming from Missouri is close enough that we don't really take anything off the duration. We've got a second sharp surface earthquake here, and then we've got a deep signal bleeding into this side. And we've got some overlap in here, but not much. This is a 5 minute signal. This is a 5 minute signal. These are two sets of 5 minute S waves. We've got another S wave set here. Got another jump in here. We can see an overlap right in here to this S wave set. There's another S wave set here. You can go across this seismogram looking at the large spikes and the taper on either side. And there's a separate earthquake there. There's a separate earthquake there. There's a separate earthquake there. There's another one there. So we're looking all the way from Missouri to get this. Cathedral Cave. And that tells us that the earthquakes are going south. Somewhat to the east, perhaps, but primarily south. Because as they travel away from Cathedral Cave, Missouri, they spread out. By traveling away, it spreads the waveform out. When we look from Tepiche, Yucatan, we still see some separation through this area, but the area of earthquakes in here that are clearly separated from the cathedral. This is more of a sideways tangent rather than behind the earthquake, with the earthquakes moving away. So what I wanted to do is give you a look at just how volcanically active this area is. So where are we looking at? We're seeing Pearl Lake react to Stanley. We're seeing Camas react to Stanley, but some of the earthquakes were closer to Pearl Lake. So there was, Haley, like I say, is down a road that follows the valley, and valleys and faults go together. I'm not sure if there's a river in there. I didn't look really close, but certainly there's, if you're going to put a road through a mountain system, you're going to use the valleys. Very few of them use the ridges. Tend to get snowed in really bad if you do that. And so here we have Seven Devils. Now, as I was saying, this smile through here, which includes the Snake River. Okay, so the Snake River is running through here. This is Yellowstone here. And we had very good seismic data return to these Yellowstone sites. And we're going to look at that a little bit. I think I've got that on a seismograph. I mean on a Google Earth map. And that's what this is. But you can see for Haley to be shifting that much, this fault is very likely the one that's shifting. But volcanic activity follows faults. And there is heavy volcanic activity. Just like I've got all these pink markers on this side, we're going to have a look at that. There's faults that are running in this valley bottom. And this is all lava fields. The whole thing is different ages of lava fields through here. So this has all been part of a multiple episode eruptive sequence. And there are buttes. All of these pink marks pretty much are buttes. So we'll have a look at that now. So I was saying that there is a lot of volcanic activity. So I thought, well, let's show it to you, and we'll take one section. There's an unmarked butte. There's Cedar Butte. There's Rock Coral Butte. This is a lava field that isn't even named. This is Table Legs Butte, and this is another untitled butte. There's another butte right beside it over here. It's called East Butte. That's a lot of buttes in a small location. Now there's farming right here, and that's basaltic magma or lava when it breaks down is actually makes very fertile soil. So if it's irrigated, if it's broken up and it's irrigated and broken down to a soil consistency, that's wonderful farmland. It contains a lot of phosphates and mineralization. It's really good. But it takes, when it's not laid down as layers of ash or lapilli, the small gravelly bits, then it takes longer to break down as big sheets. But old lava fields are good farmland, if enough time passes. Now we're stepping back a little bit. We're looking at the same area. This is that lava field. There's Cedar Butte, Table Legs Butte. There's East Butte there. Here's Hell's Half-Acre lava field. Okay. And there's Rock Coral Butte just off the screen. And you look, you can see what's happening is there's periodic expulsion of lava. So by darkness, this lava here is not as old as this. This is the youngest lava. This is the next youngest, or next youngest. This paler colored lava is the oldest of the bunch, and that's where the farming is getting into the lava fields. Farming and ranching, I suppose. Let's see, which one did I have here? I had that one, and well, I guess this is the best one. Bit of a rush to put this all together because there's a lot of information involved in this. So this is the Seven Devils Complex. This showing you, this is Craters of the Moon right in here. And I meant to show that as another site. I think I actually didn't load it. My mistake. Anyway, Craters of the Moon is here, and it's a huge lava field. And I'll just move my face out of the way. That'll help. There we go. We can see this curls all the way around, and this is the area that we were looking with an unnamed lava field here. There's ice caves down there. We're seeing them down here. There's Bear Trap Cave. There's Lariat Caves, another ice cave. This is 37 miles west of Pocatello. Hopefully I said the name correctly. But buttes all the way through here, and I didn't identify every one, but they carry on like this, like all these pink markers. They're pretty much all buttes. Some of them are unnamed cinder cones and unnamed craters, and many of the buttes are unnamed as well. But these carry on just like this all the way through. This is all old lava. This is all old lava fields. Some of the fields are newer, some of the fields are older, but it's all old lava. And where did it come from? A lot of it came from the Seven Devils complex, 110 miles across. Super volcano in its time. And what do we have on the other side of this smiling face is we've got the Yellowstone on the other side, starting here, and it's about the same size as Seven Devils. And we've got 15 million year old volcanoes waking up. So I'm not surprised to see VLF waves and other activity from the Seven Devils complex. There's lava tubes that run quite far towards Yellowstone as well. So there's lots going on in Idaho that most people are not aware of. This earthquake epicenter here, let's get myself moved over. The earthquake epicenter here, this is hitting every day. And we've been having 4.5s in this area, near Stanley. And it's been going on for months and months and months. It's a very, very active site. So that is an area that needs to, we're watching it constantly. Check it pretty regularly through the heliplot system. That's a series of something like 120 seismograms all over the world, and includes a whole bunch in the U.S., of course. So we're getting data pretty steadily. Not always as much. Some of the sites are shut down at different times, and it's not always the best data to have heliplots. Often it's better to have a seismogram because they're 3 and 4 lines per hour instead of 1 line per hour. And that gives you a better look at the activity type, which is why we showed you some activity from Yellowstone and Wyoming sites. Anyway, there we have it. The earthquake that we had today, because it had it had 2 5-minute sets of S waves. That was a 7.6, maybe a 7.65. The one that we had earlier in Chile was actually a 7.4 range earthquake. So this one's a couple of points higher, and it shows it in the size of propagation around the world. I don't think it was higher than a 7.65 today, but that's a good-sized earthquake. The concern that we have is that earthquake sizes are increasing ever since the 20th. We're now on the 22nd, and we had 6s, a couple of mid-6s in Tonga and Kuril Islands, and then we increased to 7.4 for Chile. Now we're up to 7.6, 7.65 range for Nicaragua. That's we're seeing a steady increase in sizes, and we're seeing lots of plate shifts, not worldwide, but in the U.S. Worldwide, we're not seeing too much in the way of plate shifts, so that's a good thing. We're not seeing VLF waves on the seismogram so much. But things seem to be on the increase, so we need to be keeping an eye out, being aware that at some point we're going to need to make decisions for ourselves about where we need to be for these things and how we're prepared. Are we going to bug in? Are we going to bug out? And how are we going to look after our families and our friends through part of this? And this all ties into end times, of course, that there will be very significant earthquake activity. I don't see us, I'm not seeing a warning earthquake at this point for California. I'm hoping that we have one before things get really bad. California remains quite busy. We've just had quite a bit of activity through the New Madrid as well. It's not shaking real hard, but it's having another shift through the New Madrid. So we're going to bring that information probably tomorrow. It's too much to put into one program. Even though we've got a focus on Idaho and around the world on this program, I have looked at other sites as well. So it's been a busy day. So hopefully you like what we're doing, and give us a thumbs up on your way out. Recommend us to your friends, and go forward with the understanding that God has always warned His children through the prophets. This is actually written in Corinthians. So this continues to this day. God doesn't change. He warned His children before. We are grafted in to the nation to the Hebrew, to the Jews, as part, and thus the new covenant grafts us in, and we have the same rights and the same provisions made for us as Christians. So it's important to know. So go forward understanding that God will provide all things through the times that come that are going to be increasingly difficult. And it's hard to watch some of what's going on because there's some terrible stories of what is going on that are making it outside of mainstream news. People are losing friends and loved ones, and that's a very hard thing. Unfortunately, there is what is understood to be by many a depop agenda by the World Economic Forum and the UN and others working in government positions, high-level government positions, to bring this forward. And we're just going to have to deal with it. So look to God for strength and keep your eyes on Jesus. And we'll see you next time on Feed My Sheep, Earthquake Reports, and more. Bye for now.